Hey YouTube, Marcus, ground plane kit's in the mail. I haven't even bothered editing the video from this morning, so I'm going to have maybe 2 or 3 videos to upload. We're going to go down there to the post office and pick it up because I know my mail carrier drives a car, like a little Malibu sized car, a little small sedan, and I know that the radios on that thing are going to be, I believe, 4 feet long or something like that, so be a pain in the butt for him to fit that in his car with all the other packages. So I'm just going to drive down here to the post office and pick it up. It's only about a 5-minute drive, so you guys can't see nothing on here, can you? Let's flatten my feet on this thing out. There we go. And we'll do a recording of the drive to the Tyersville post office here. So there it is, the Solarcon GPK1 ground plane kit for a Solarcon A99 from Copper Electronics. Let's I don't know if y'all can see me or not here. Let's check the invoice here and maybe open it. I didn't want to open it in the parking lot and drop stuff and maybe have somebody come in behind me real quick and run over a piece, because I am right on the edge of the parking lot here. Alright, so here is the Solarcon GPK1, I believe it is, ground plane kit, the Solarcon or Antron A99. You've got 4 fiberglass radials, the collar that they actually screw into, and then you've got a little hardware baggie here with 4 lock washers and a set screw. It takes a 13mm wrench. I do recommend using wrenches instead of a pair of pliers or something, because if you use pliers, all you're going to succeed in doing is gouging these all to pieces and tearing the coating off. And you want to be as gentle with them as possible, because every time every mark we make in that, every piece of metal that flakes off is a potential impedance bump, because that's where it can start corroding or rusting or whatever. So it takes a 13mm wrench. Like I said, excuse the mess, I'm in the process of doing some construction back here. There's my Solarcon A99 up there. We're going to lower it down. To explain the process here, what we're going to do, I'm going to put on some rubberized gloves so I don't get splinters from either the wood or the fiberglass, because there's a slight chance that fiberglass is starting to get old. We're going to back out this screw. We're going to back out this screw. And we're going to back out these 2 screws. And we're going to back out these 2 screws. And then I might have to lay this over out of the way here, but then this whole unit here will hinge and lay over. I'm going to lay something out here, a bench or something, for it to lay on, because I'm going to need the antenna off the ground a little bit so that I can actually, I'll actually have room to put the radials on without squashing them and breaking them. So we'll get you guys set up and be right back. That ought to be far enough over to be alright. it's down here. First thing we're going to have to do is take the antenna itself loose, because we're going to have to slide it upward a couple inches, because the collar that the radials stick into actually snaps into this portion, or snaps around this portion. So I'm going to have to take these loose, take my coax off, and scoot it upwards a little bit. And then once I tighten it down, after that, I may actually paint this. So hang on just a second here. Let me see if we can strap you guys on right here so you can see what's going on. There we go. So we'll spray these down, let them set for a minute. We'll be back in just a second. Alrighty, so let's get our antenna reattached here with things reversed, like I was mentioning. And I said this will slide up over this. I am going to line this part here with where it contacts with dielectric grease. Try and keep this from corroding in between these two pieces of metal. This is aluminum down here, but you put two pieces of metal that close to each other where they're touching or almost touching, and they'll trap moisture in between them. And that's a recipe for corrosion, so I want to try and prevent that before it starts. Alright, we're going to slide this all the way up. Dig out our set screw here and go ahead and get that put in place so that that doesn't move. Alright, what size is this? Is this the same size as those? Yep, 11 millimeter. Alright, another thing we're going to do, dielectric grease on this and in the hole for the set screw, because you don't want it to corrode down inside there. Like I said, anywhere there's two pieces of metal that are going to be touching, you need to make an effort to seal against water entry. There we go. And double check the manual before I crank down on it, make sure I'm doing everything right. It seemed pretty intuitive, but alrighty. Insert aluminum bottom tube into ground plane collar and raise collar to the base of plastic threaded section. Got it. Tighten the set screw. Install the 4 fiberglass radials. Install the A99. Alright, that's the instructions. So yeah, we're doing it right. I wanted to make sure before we tighten down and jack something up. Alright. That seems pretty tight. I don't think it's going to go nowhere. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to place the antenna. We're going to do it on the opposite side here, so that we're tightening the nuts on the same side, but instead of tightening the serrated portion into the antenna, we're tightening the serrated portion into the pipe here. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to raise the whole mast up off the ground and see about using that workbench to support it to get this 3 or 4 feet off the ground so I can install the radials and not have them mashed into the dirt. And also so that I can paint the rest of this in the grass when I try to paint it. So let's see if we can get this up on this workbench here. Should be able, hopefully, to lift this and set it over on this. That should kind of balance it out because that 4x4 was flexing right there in the middle. So now the only thing flexing is the antenna. So we're going to set you fellas right about here. And we'll get going installing these radials. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put dielectric grease in every one of these holes as I install the radial. Alrighty. Let me see. Dielectric grease. Yeah. Dielectric grease around the threads here. Lock washer. Yeah, there we go. Right there, it just popped into place. If you don't know for sure if you've got one cross-threaded or not, press in and turn it backwards until you feel the threads pop against each other, and then you can start tightening it because you know they're straight. Now you may get a little bit of resistance if you absolutely fill this hole. You may get a small amount of resistance from the fluid itself because fluids do not compress. But since this is not an airtight seal, the fluid will eventually just squish out of the gaps between the metal parts here. What we're looking for this lock washer where it's cut. We want that to flatten out. Once that flattens out, we know we've got it as tight as it's going to get. We stop. Any tighter, once that washer flattens out, we run the risk of stripping the threads. Just lock washer's flat. There we go. That radial's done. Next one. Alrighty, what you're about to see is a heavily edited and sped up version of what happened. Basically, the end result, one of the radials got fouled up. The threads got cross-threaded. Either it or the hole it's supposed to screw into. I don't know if it was that way when I got it. I suspect I probably screwed it up, although in the moment I didn't feel like I had done anything to cross-thread it, you know, and I didn't have any problem with the other three. But the end result is that one of the radials got cross-threaded, and I got pissed, and I spent about an hour forcibly cutting new threads into the radial and the collar both, and I actually ended up taking the radial into the building and using a grinder to give it a tapered end, and then recutting some new threads, and finally got it to thread in and tighten down. So anyway, here you go. Alright, so it is not wanting to go in straight. When it does start threading, it starts threading cockeyed at an angle. The fire stick goes in fine. It threads into this, fine. The fire stick threads into this, fine. The only difference is that the fire stick's tapered. So we're going to taper the end of this. Where can I set you fellers here? We'll mount you right about here. Well, maybe, if you can see. Oh man. You fellas down here at that. So maybe, hopefully, I can get a tapered end put on this thing here. Safety first. And hopefully by tapering the end, alright, we finally got her. What I ended up doing was basically forcing, this is the shot one. I took the radial out of this hole, fed it into that hole, so I had fresh threads here. I still had to kind of thread in, but I finally did get it to thread in. Alrighty, we're going to do a couple of things here before we put it up. Alright, we're going to seal the coax with some coax seal. And check for continuity with an ohm meter. How do I lay that ohm meter at? I had it up there. Well, we'll do the coax seal first. Coax seal is basically, does the same basic job as electrical tape. Only it's kind of like half melted rubber. And you just tear off what you need, you wrap it around your electrical connections, and it keeps water out. Easier to use if it's warm. Sticks to itself pretty good though. Alrighty, here we go. First, we'll check the meter, make sure it's working. Yep. Alright, continuity between collar and ground. Good to go. Continuity between collar and each radial. just an FYI, you should have continuity from ground to all of this. So I should be able to say, touch the conduit and touch each of these radios and get continuity. We're good to go. We're good to stand this bad boy back up. There's that coax seal I was telling you about. And it'll get hot and shrink with sunlight over time, but I'm just trying to make sure that it's kind of mashed into the serrations on the coax here so that it has a good tight seal there. Oh man. Alrighty, she's up. I'm gonna get my wife to help me straighten everything out, make sure it's good and vertical, and then we'll be back for a radio check. Alrighty, so locally, no noticeable difference. I kind of suspected that would be the case because the ranges are so short, you know, that weak reception areas are weak, not because I don't have the power to get to them, but because I'm in between buildings and things of that nature. So I didn't think that that would make a huge difference locally. But what I am going to be curious about is whether or not the longer distance people that I do talk to, 30, 40, 50 miles away, whether I'm louder and clearer on them, because I did notice one or two spots where my signal used to kind of fade out and I had maybe half a bar higher. Could just be me, but there she is. If y'all have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, post them below. And this is Marcus out. Y'all have a good one.